Well, as you might be able to intuit from that type of music, we're going to be talking about Rumi today. Beautiful Middle Eastern music. Well, welcome everybody. Welcome to Unity in Ashland. Seems like the mic is going in and out a little bit. I want to remind you to turn off your cell phones, and I don't have one of Donna's good jokes today. Change that. Well, it's kind of a quiet energy in here this morning, but I'd love for you to greet one another and just look around and see who's here, and then turn to somebody, and even if you came in not quite feeling this all the way, but maybe you did, but I want you to turn to someone and say, I love my life. So turn to someone and say, I love my life.
I love my life.
Then say to them, this is a great day, and that's just the way it is. This is a great day. It is a great day.
Carolyn was coming. I know.
Working again? So when we come into unity, we're coming into a morphogenic field that we're creating here every week, and it can shift your energy and your attitudes, up-level it, you know. So even if you weren't quite feeling all the way there, maybe you can move into this. You can stand into a consciousness of being happy and of being in a community of love. So we appreciate your presence here today. And we're here to fall in love again. And I don't mean necessarily with a human being that we're in romantic love with, but we're here to fall in love with God. We're here to fall in love with the beloved within. When we talk about Rumi, we can't help but think about that. So today, we invoke together, and I'd love for you to stand to do this. We invoke together the presence of Spirit. We invoke together the presence of our ancestors. Just imagine your ancestors standing behind you all the way back, and imagine them going back before the United States to countries of origin behind you, all the way back. Take a deep breath, and we welcome here today spiritual teachers that you've had, and I want you to think about a spiritual teacher that you may have had. Welcome them as if they're coming in to stand right next to you today. Maybe they were a teacher at school or something, or just somebody that's been a spiritual teacher to you, and welcome them to stand in here with you today. We're bringing together in our mind's eye our beloved community. So we not only appreciate your presence here today, but we appreciate all those beloveds that you bring here with you. God's put us together for a purpose. So I want you to now turn to the person next to you one more time and say this. Say, God's put us together for a purpose. Find somebody to say this to. God's put us together for a purpose. I see the truth about you, and you're beautiful. There is power and poise and confidence in you. There's power and poise and confidence in you. So let's be together in the here and now. Let's do this. Let's be together in the beauty and the love. Yeah. You gotta use the other one? Anyway, can you feel maybe your immune system is already getting a little bit amplified by speaking these truths to each other and looking in each other's eyes and saying the truth about each other? Yeah. Oh, well, I'd love to think I will bless the children now because they're having some fun moments there. We're going to wait a minute. Let's bring the children up and have a blessing for the children, and then they can go out to their wonderful class together. So just like we sing this wonderful song to the children, this is what we're saying to each other too. Thank you, children, for being the face of God, as is everybody in this room. So thank you, Heather, for leading us in this wonderful blessing.
And honoring these children and then the child in ourselves. With that thought, I often like to put one hand on my heart and one hand out to the children. You might want to do that too. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I'll hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. You are the face of God. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God. Send them out with one more time of this. You are the face of God. Have fun. I hold you in my heart. You are a part of me. You are the face of God.
Did you see those faces? It was pretty sweet to look into those little faces of God, wasn't it? Well, this week I've had the immense privilege of being in the presence of Andrew Harvey on Thursday evening and on Saturday this week here in Ashland. Do you know who he is? Yes. He's written many wonderful books. He spent many years with a guru woman from India, but then it got to the point where she wasn't able to accept him as being a gay man and being in that spirituality, so he moved on from that and moved into being a devotee, though, of the mother and feminine consciousness on the planet, and has just written fabulous books on spiritual activism, sacred activism, and bringing hope for our times. So he's a man on fire with a passion for Rumi, too. Andrew asked us, why do you think Rumi's poetry, way back from the 1200s, is returning to us like a tsunami in these times, at this point in our evolution? Is it just a coincidence? How many of you here know Rumi, know who Rumi is, and have read Rumi's poetry? See, almost everywhere you go now, people know who Rumi is. Well, Andrew says it's not at all a coincidence, that it's a direct flaming out of divine mercy for us humans and what we're going through right now on the brink of the great turning. Andrew said that the passion of Rumi's life, expressed in his poems, can transform us and mutate us from humans that are trapped in our certain mindset into those who are able to co-create with the Godhead a new world. So he feels so much passion about Rumi's poetry that he places Rumi on the level of Jesus or Buddha. He says Rumi's coming from the Islamic tradition, and he really has impacted our planet to a huge degree like that. So yesterday, as I was leaving the all-day time with Andrew, Anya, who often reads the poetry for us, said, I wish I could be here with you tomorrow, but she's staying in the workshop with Andrew today. It goes on all day today, which I think many people are there. But she whispered in my ear, she said, please tell them this poem. It's very short, this poem of Rumi's. Sit be still and listen, because you're drunk and we're at the edge of the roof. Sit, be still and listen, because you're drunk and we're at the edge of the roof. So this is something that Rumi might be saying to us humans on planet Earth right now. He's telling us to wake up, because we are on the edge of something, the edge of chaos, but chaos is always the edge of tremendous creativity. So we're not going to get through this crisis as we are now. We humans are going to get radically transmuted. We've been talking about it and imagining it for a long time. But we're not going to get through what's coming down on the planet as we have been. The hope now is complete transfiguration. We humans, in a way, we've been terrifyingly dangerous to one another, to nature, to all living things. And Andrew is saying that he doesn't think we're going to change until we realize how deeply and desperately we need a revelation of the real love, like that which was coming through Rumi. So Rumi's coming back at this time to remind us, to help us remember who we really are, beloveds of the beloved Creator of the spinning galaxies and this amazing earth, and we are intricately part of it all. We are loved. We're not being abandoned. We are a glorious, magnificent, important part of creation, and love created us, and love has a plan for us, and love is calling us to know more deeply how much we are loved. So today, in the next hour, we're going to explore 3 secrets of Rumi's message, of this mercy that's pouring out on us humans today. 3 secrets. The first one is, we've got to live where everything is music. The second one is, tear down this house. And the third one is, dance, dance, dance into the heart of God. So those come from Rumi's poems. Now we're going to get to sing some of Rumi's poetry today too, and this is a great welcoming song. It's welcoming to all the parts of ourselves, our shadow as well as our light, and it's welcoming to all diversity in our world. This was Rumi's heart, such a heart of love for all beings. Heather, tell us the poem. Sing us the poem.
This song Shimshai did, and it's based on these words of Rumi, so I'll speak them first. Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Come, come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. It doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before, and yet again, come again, come, and yet again, come. So I love those words, because it's like, we screwed up, or we did this or that, but we can always come back to that place, our true selves, our connection with Source. So thank you, Rumi, and thank you, Shimshai, for creating this song. Come again. Sing along as you wish. Come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. Come, wherever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of leaving. Come, whoever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. It doesn't matter if you've broken your vows again. Come again, come and yet again come. Come again, come. Come again, come. Come again, come. Come again, come.
Feel Spirit saying that to you right now.
Come again, come. Let's repeat that part again. Come again, come. Come again, come. It's not too late. Come again, come. Come again, come. Come wherever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Come wherever you are. This isn't fair without what you say. Come wherever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Come wherever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. It doesn't matter if you've broken your vows 1,000 times before, and yet again. Come again, come, and yet again come. Come again, come. Come again, come. Come again, come. Come again, come. One more time, beginning. Come wherever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Come wherever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. Come wherever you are. Wanderer, worshiper, lover of leaving. Come wherever you are. This isn't a caravan of despair. Come.
Thank you, Spirit. Thank you so much, Creator of the universe, that you are this love. You are our beloved. And we are beloved of you, and you're constantly calling out to us, come, come. Wherever we've got lost, wherever we've gone in our minds, wherever we've gone in our life experience, you're constantly calling to us, come, come, wanderer. Even if you are a lover of leaving, come back. We thank you, Spirit. Thank you so much for loving us beyond what we can imagine. And for calling us through the darkness, through the hard things in our life, to remember again, to remember who you are and who we are. And then to be able to see others through the eyes of compassion and love. So we're calling ourselves forth here today, whatever holes of low self-esteem or fear that we might have fallen into, we call ourselves forth to come and be present, beloved community. We feel the sweet essence of that. It was said that it was like oil pouring down over Aaron's beard in the Hebrew Scriptures. Sweet presence of the Holy Spirit calling you now. Come and be in this presence. Let it flow over you like a waterfalls. May all your needs be met in the sweet time that we have together. Amen. Blessed. Handheld. Just test it one more time. Is it working now?
The four, okay, go ahead.
Test it. Okay.
It's just going in and out. It might be a wire.
Might be a wire. Oh, I'll try it again and see how
All right.
it goes. Okay. Oh, this first part of sharing with you about Rumi, I want to talk to you about how do we live in a way where everything is music. Well, one of the oldest questions of the spiritual quester is, should we be trying to be happy with the way things are right now, finding joy in the moment, or Should we be striving to reach another world? Not even necessarily the world after we're going to die, but perhaps a world that's hidden within this world, here but somehow beyond the limits of our perception. So you hear those two questions that we often struggle with, and I think we struggle with it within our New Thought community too. You know, should we be trying to put our mind into a mindset where we're joyful and happy and accepting everything all the time, or should we be searching for something beyond this little sensual reality that we're in? Well, in one of his poems, Rumi tells us a story that suggests that we're fools to think that there is something beyond this world. So this is what song, a musical moment that we could have here with this poem of Rumi's.
Could you use the handheld, please?
It's going in and out too much. I'll give in.
No, it's not working.
Okay. Little by little, wean yourself. That's the gist of what I have to say. From an embryo whose nourishment comes into the blood, move to being an infant drinking milk, then to a child on solid food, then to a searcher after wisdom, then to a hunter of more invisible game. Think how it is to have a conversation with an embryo. You might say, the world outside is vast and intricate. There are wheat fields and mountain passes and orchards in bloom. At night there are millions of galaxies, and in the sunlight, the beauty of friends dancing at a wedding. You ask the embryo why he or she stays cooped up in the dark with their eyes closed. Listen to the answer. The embryo says, there's no other world. I only know what I've experienced. You must be hallucinating. Don't worry about saving these songs, and if one of our instruments breaks, it doesn't matter. We have fallen into the place where everything is music. The strumming and the flute notes rise into the atmosphere, and even if the whole world's harp should burn up, there will still be hidden instruments playing. So what if the candle flickers and goes out? We have a piece of flint and a spark. Let's live as if everything is singing. So, what can we hear he's saying here? It's easy to get stuck in our daily material mindset and be oblivious to the amazing realms of spiritual ecstasy. And on the other hand, right here in the same poem, Rumi is describing this world around us as one where all the bliss that we seek is already right here at our fingertips. So it can sound kind of confusing, right, within that poem. Other times when I've read it, I thought, yeah, he's going back and forth between whole different thoughts here. It is confusing. Which one are we to do? Neither a longing for another world nor a placid contentment with the way things are will lead us to our goal, Rumi says. In another poem, he sums it up like this. If you focus only on what visible reality can give, you'll just be an employee. Yet, if you want only the unseen world, you're not living your truth here and now. Both wishes are foolish, but you'll be forgiven for forgetting that what you really want is only love's confusing joy. Have you ever felt that way? It can be kind of confusing looking at our lives, and should we be, just content with the way they are, or should we be not content and looking for something else all the time? Well, let's talk about Rumi's life for a minute. He was born in 1207 in Afghanistan, which is when the Persian Empire was ruling. While he was still a little child, his family fled to Turkey, and the Mongols invaded their land. He became a scholar and a mystic, like his father, in the community of Sufi dervishes. And his father was a poet too, so he had it in him genetically. He died in 1273 And the anniversary of Rumi's death is celebrated in his country as Rumi's wedding day, because it's the day they say that he melted into union with everything. He was in love with everything and everyone. This intense, loving communion he experienced with beloved friends, with God, with the world, is so exquisitely expressed throughout his poetry. And like mystics in every tradition, he resolved the searcher's question: should we look outside our experience or deep within it? Should we be seeking another world or delving more into this one? By saying neither and both. So we are sojourners here for such a brief time. We are headed elsewhere. But when we truly get there, we're going to understand that we were there all along. Wake up, Rumi exhorts us. Just like Jesus and Buddha and all the enlightened ones have said, we already live where everything is music. Please wake up. You search and search outside of yourself for truth and happiness, but you are right that you need to search when you haven't found happiness yet. The search begins, however, and ends mysteriously right where we are right now. Wherever you go, there you are. Another Rumi poem. I have lived on the lip of insanity, wanting to know reasons, knocking on every door. Then suddenly one door opens, and I realize I've been knocking from the inside all along. Beauty surrounds us, but usually we need to be walking in a garden to know it. The body itself is a screen to shield and partially reveal the light that's blazing inside your presence. The body itself is a screen to shield and partially reveal the light that's blazing inside your presence. All the things that we do are mediums that hide and show what's hidden. All the things you do are mediums that hide and show what's hidden, so study them. And enjoy this being washed with a secret we sometimes know and then not. So Rumi's calling us to listen to everything that happens to you. Because while we're living here in this sensual realm, everything is music. Another beautiful Rumi-esque kind of song.
Yeah, this one contains some words and some sayings that are often Sufi, or that Sufis often have used. The ocean refuses no river. The ocean refuses no river. And then Ishkala Mabudila La ilaha illallah. How many of you have heard that before? Probably a lot. And that basically means God is love, lover, and the beloved. And I think one reason why so many people appreciate Rumi's words is that he has a way of not forsaking the human experience. You know, really connecting the spirit with our humanity. So I'm going to stand. And you might be wondering why we have all this space and a lot of the chairs are missing. I hope that you can stay, because at the end we will also do a new Sufi song and dance, one that we haven't done here before. So please sing along with me. The ocean refuses no river. The ocean refuses no river. Ishkala, Ishkala, Mabudila, La ilaha illallah.
Beautiful. Thank you, everybody, for giving yourself over to that song. Andrew Harvey was constantly talking to us about how we have to give ourselves over, we have to surrender to our own lives, to God. As much as we seek to have a beloved in this life, he was urging us to seek that relationship with the beloved, the divine beloved, to give up everything for it. He said this is what's happening on planet Earth right now, that humans are being called to let go of the narcissistic greed that's gotten a hold of us, and to give up everything, to let go of all of our addictive tendencies, let go of whatever needs to be let go of, to go after this relationship with the beloved. And I know many of you have spent your lives doing that. And we're like, the 100 monkeys perhaps, as we really keep doing that and give our lives over to that search. A portion of us, a portion of humanity doing this is going to affect the whole. And I've seen it in my dreams, a time when, as it says in the apocalyptic book of John in the Bible, a time when every knee shall bow and every tongue confess. And I don't think of that so much in the, any fundamentalist terms of any, like an exclusive thing, more like all of humanity are going to realize who we are and that we are created to be these co-creative, infused with so much power and love and light beings that we will be creating heaven on earth. I know we've been talking about this since 2012, for many years, that this is our mission. But now more than ever, as we do approach the edge of the roof, like Rumi says, we have to be ready for the house to be torn down, for the houses to be torn down. Right now, Pluto is going through Capricorn, if you want to get astrological about it. When Pluto goes through one of the houses, it's bringing death and destruction and reconstruction to that place in the zodiac. And the House of Capricorn is about the structures of the world, the structures of government and economics and power. So that's what's happening. We are living in this time when the houses are being torn down. And Rumi's writing, it's not all about bliss. Lots of times people say, I want to go to my Rumi poetry book and give me an uplifting message for the day. Well, he also sings a lot of pain that precedes the ecstasy, or is even part of it. In my Journey to Completion work, which is very similar to what Rumi does because it's a shamanic pathway, I say that the calling has the via positiva and the via negativa right within it. They both come together. We have to have the tearing down, the deconstruction, in order to get all the way through to what we envision, what we want. So sometimes the things that we treasure, our very selves, have to be dismantled in order for new life to have room to emerge. We may have to endure destruction before our new selves can be created. Rumi said, many demolitions are renovations. And my mother used to say, a knock is always a boost. I think it's very similar to what Rumi said. So as Andrew was saying to us yesterday, it's been true for me too, and maybe it's true for you too, that my whole life has been seeing where we are with kind of an urgency. Ever since I was young, I've been driven kind of crazy by God, seeing visions of divine union and where we're headed in a beautiful way, and also seeing the ending of time as we know it. Seeing the enormous love and feeling my union with that and the dismantling both. And my hope has been through all of this that I and all of us will listen to the words of the great teachers like Jesus and Buddha and Rumi, and let the teachings that have been brought to this planet burn away our false perceptions and our egoic fears and become flames of love and action. If we have a ghost of a chance in this transmutation of humanity, We need to give ourselves completely, devotedly, wholeheartedly over to walking through that flaming doorway that Rumi talks about, that may appear so frightening to our ego, and find that we have ventured into the mystical, ecstatic union with the beloved of our souls. Just take a breath for a minute with me and remember a time when you have done that, because I know that you wouldn't be sitting here probably unless you have had times that you've actually walked through that flaming doorway. And it was scary. It was hard to walk through. And then on the other side of it, you were embraced. You were embraced by such tremendous love that you couldn't even imagine it before. Rumi says it so well in this poem called Passion. A good poem to have some music with you. Passion. It's passion that burns down every branch of exhaustion. Passion. Feel that, what that's saying. Passion will burn down in you every branch of exhaustion. Passion, your passion, is the supreme elixir that will renew all things. Your passion. What is your passion? No one can grow exhausted when passion is born in them. So don't sigh heavily. Don't furl your eyebrow bleak with cynicism or boredom. Dare to look for passion. 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 Futile solutions deceive the force of passion. They are bandits and will extort money through lies. Futile solutions deceive the force of passion. Don't we see that going on in our world right now? They are bandits and will extort money through lies. Pallid water will never satisfy you. It will stop you from looking for real rivers. False gold will only cut your feet and bind your wings. It tells you, I will remove your difficulties, but it only leaves you empty and exhausted. Pull away from all these counterfeits. Turn and run far from all these false solutions. Let divine passion triumph in you and rebirth truth in yourself. And I want to say it one more time for our nation right now. Turn and run away from false solutions. Let divine passion triumph in us and rebirth truth in ourselves. Can't you agree with me on that? Yes. That's what needs to happen. I believe that everyone sitting here knows what you have to be and what you have to do. You've got to gamble your life away to God, to the beloved. You've got to give everything you have for the birth of the new you, and thus of the new humanity. I want you to think about that for a minute. You know, what is being called of you right now, no matter how young or old you are? What are you being asked to give lavishly, to passionately give? One more time, one more deep letting go of what you thought you had to have, so that this birth of a greater truth can take place in you. Rumi often writes about the relationship between a teacher and a student, which is the story of renovations that feel like demolitions. They are demolitions, tearing down what the student used to be. The student longs to be changed, but change isn't easy. So a good teacher who truly loves the student presses on, doing things that may seem like they hurt very much in the moment. But Rumi says, many actions which seem cruel are from a deep friendship. Spiritual transformation is a death as well as a birth. The teachers who help us to grow know that it can't happen without this pain. They don't save us from it. In fact, what they do usually intensifies it. I think Bernie Sanders was one of those teachers that was coming along, you know. And we do have so many teachers right now, the people in Ferguson. You know, at the film festival recently, there were a lot of films that were calling us to this kind of awakening And they weren't easy to watch. Because things have to intensify sometimes for us to wake up. I've been blessed with several teachers along the way in my life like this. How about you? Teachers that were kind of hard on me, but really brought me through. One was a philosophy teacher in college, and I know that he was also a spiritual teacher. I was a bright little abstract thinker, a natural philosopher, and I loved the play of ideas and intellectual games. And one day, Irv really challenged me right there in front of everyone. He asked if I could connect these bright, sparkling ideas to the real issues in my own life. And I was silent. What he was really asking me was, could I connect my mind and my heart? Years later, he and I talked about that time when he put me on the hot seat, and Irv confessed that he wasn't sure if I was going to come back to class. Maybe he'd been too hard on me. But I was a stubborn learner, as well as a bright one, and I did come back. And I was grateful because years later, often, right in the midst of moments when I was tempted to go off just into my mind, I would remember that lesson, and my heart would draw me back. And I would have to ask myself, what's really going on? What's really going on? Rumi tells about the spiritual teacher and student relationship like this. A chickpea leaps almost over the rim of the pot where it's being boiled. The chickpea is the student. Why are you doing this to me? And the cook knocks him down with a ladle. Don't you try to jump out. You think I'm torturing you. I'm doing you a favor, so you can mix with the spices and the rice and be the lovely vitality of a human being. Eventually the chickpea will look to the cook and say, oil me some more. Hit me with a skimming spoon. I can't do this by myself. Well, spiritual teachers demand a lot. Not out of cruelty, but out of love and necessity, because the spiritual life is demanding. And I think that our beloved is demanding a lot of us right now on planet Earth. The transformations that we need and seek are not trivial. They're huge. Have you ever read that C.S. Lewis series of books, The Chronicles of Narnia? Well, in that one called The Voyage of the Dawn Treader, it reminds me about Eustace, the character who was the little boy who was kind of the bad guy, always acting out. He was a complete brat, if we want to put it bluntly. And he ran into a kind of misfortune that might happen to anyone who's living over there in the Chronicles of Narnia on the magical island. He got turned into a dragon. Well, he is selfish and destructive, and so he takes on the form that suited him. When he realized what happened, though, he tried to take off the skin and become a boy again. And as one might imagine, like a dragon can do, it did. It molted quite easily, just like a snake. But then, as it molted underneath, he was still a dragon. All he did was peel off an outer layer. It didn't hurt. It didn't make any real difference to his nature. And he did this 3 times, peeling off the skin of the dragon. And each time the change was superficial, just skin deep. Only when the lion Aslan appears to him and takes his claw and cuts deep, right at his heart, through all the skin, and sheds blood, did the boy's dragon nature transform into a human being again, and a much better and happier human than he was before. So sometimes it does take the pain that the beloved or the teacher is bringing us, a really big pain sometimes. Eustace said the very first tear that was made so deep, he thought that it had gone right into his heart. And of course that's exactly what it had done. Something holy is buried deep in our lives. We've got to do the demolitions necessary to dig it out. Allah says, I was a hidden treasure, and I desired to be known by you. As a commentary on that passage, Rumi writes this poem called The Pickaxe. This is a good one for some music, too. A poem called The Pickaxe, right? Rumi says, "Tear this house down. 100,000 new houses can be built from the transparent yellow carnelian buried beneath this one. And the only way to get to that is to do the work of demolishing and then digging under the foundations of the house. With that true value in hand, all the new construction will be done without effort." You get that? With that true construction and deconstruction going on, the new construction will be done without effort. And anyway, sooner or later, this house is going to fall on its own. The jewel treasure will be uncovered, but it won't be yours then. The buried wealth is your payment for doing the demolition, the pick and shovel work. If you want justice, let it happen. You might bite your own hand and say, "I didn't do as I knew I should have done," if you don't do it right now. Because this is just a rented house. This body, you don't own the deed. You have a lease. And you set up a little shop here where you barely make a living serving, sewing patches on torn clothing. Yet only a few feet underneath this house are two veins, one pure red and one bright gold carnelian. Quick, take the pickaxe and pry the foundation. You've got to quit this seamstress work. What does the patch sewing mean, you ask? Well, it allows me to eat and drink. The heavy cloak of the body is always getting torn. You patch it with food and other restless ego satisfactions. Just rip up one board from the shop floor and look into the basement. And you'll see there two glints in the dirt. Dig for them now. So Rumi didn't go easy on us. We're going to sing another wonderful song that does come from Rumi that Heather has created, right? And it's one of my favorite songs to sing. It really relates to what we're talking about. Out beyond ideas of right doing and wrong doing, there is a field. I will meet you there. So that's where we're headed in this time of Pluto going through Capricorn. We're headed out beyond all our ideas of what's right and what's wrong. We're headed into the chaotic confusion of a new world.
I also included some of his other words in this poem. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. And it's not in this song, but he also says, even the phrase each other just doesn't make any sense. I love this one when we feel a conflict with another person too. It's beautiful, getting to the heart of forgiveness. So why don't we invite you to stand? And this song is 3 parts. And I know we don't have a lot of us here today, but I'm going to teach you the first part. We'll repeat it a couple times. Second part a couple times. We'll do that a while, and then we're going to try to divide where half of you do the first part while half of you do the other part, so we have some harmony. And then the third part will go into just expressing gratitude for God and Goddess. It's a little different than we've done before. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Sing that again. Out beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing, there is a field, I'll meet you there. Here's the second part. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. hand, right doing. There is a field, I'll meet you there. Out beyond ideas, wrongdoing hand, right doing. There is a field, I'll meet you there. The soul. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Now just this side, keep repeating this part. I'll be beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. There is a field, I'll meet you there. It's just going to be your part for a while, just repeating it. I'll be beyond ideas of wrongdoing and right doing. There is a field. Keep repeating that, and then you all follow me. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. That's the idea. Bring those parts together. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. When the soul lies down in that grass, the world is too full to talk about. Third part, let's give thanks. Thank you, God. All is well. Thank God. Thank you, God. All is well. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All is well. Thank you, God. Thank you, God. All is well. Repeat that. All is well. All is well.
Thank you. That was so beautiful. You may be seated. Well, not only singing comforts us, but dancing too. This third part is about dancing ourselves into the very heart of God. Rumi said, dance when you're broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. Well, Rumi's poetry is really grounded in an experience of abandoning and surrendering into this deep dance of love. You know how when you love somebody deeply, that love makes you forget everything else. You rush to be with that friend when she needs you. Never mind that you have a lot of work to do and you can't spare any time. You stay up most of the night if your child is sick. You buy flowers constantly and bring them to your sweetheart because every time you pass by a display of bouquets in the supermarket or at the farmer's market, you think of him. You unhesitatingly buy that perfect, ridiculously expensive plaything for your grandchild without so much as a mental glance toward your bank balance, because the thought of the delight of that beloved's face exerts a pull that's irresistible on your heart. So one of the central facts of Rumi's life was his deep mystical friendship with Shams of Tabriz. As the translator Coleman Barks writes, they spent months together without any human needs, transported into a region of pure conversation. One night, while they were in the state of mystical communion, a knock came at the back door. Shams went to the door, and whoever was there grabbed him and took him away, and he disappeared, never to return. Rumi never saw him again. No one knows what happened. Some think Shams was killed by disciples of Rumi who were jealous of all the time that the two of them spent together. If it was a case of murder by jealous disciples who wanted Rumi's attention for themselves, it didn't work, because he kept focusing on Shams the rest of his life, and he wrote his entire masterpiece to Shams, the beloved friend, or more precisely, he said whatever he wrote was written by Shams, and that he was just the channel. So Rumi suffered terribly with that loss. It's what some mystics describe as the dark night of the soul. Sometimes we go through something so huge like that, where we've loved so deeply and then we've lost. And it does take us into a plummeting grief. But there's a purpose behind it all. And Rumi said, the tender words that Shams and I said to one another have been stored in the secret heart of heaven, and one day, like the rain, they will fall, and they will spread, and the whole world will grow green with our love. So he foresaw us, I think, in our times, and how much we would need the passion that he felt and that he lost. And still he wrote, and still he spoke of this passion for the rest of his life. Rumi knew that the world of his time wasn't ready for his passionate love story. He knew that we would have to be taken to massive dark nights, and humanity would have to be shattered and brought to its knees, to be ready to drink in with every cell of our beings words such as these, because we need them so desperately now, like the lungs need oxygen. He knew that two beings like him and Shams, who had been seated in their bodies with divine love, he knew that this love that they paid so much for would be so valuable to millions of people later, because that love is the love of the new divine human. The love that they felt in this ecstatic union is the destiny of the whole human race. Do you get what I'm saying? This passion is what will transform us and mutate us from being trapped in a more self-centered, smaller ego consciousness into something so vast and so cosmically centered that we are going to be co-creating with the Godhead a new world. We're not going to get through this crisis as we are now. We humans are going to get radically transmutated. We're not going to get through what is coming down on the planet as we have been. The hope now is to transfigure or be annihilated. As we are, as I said before, humans can be kind of scary, so we've got to change deeply now. We really do desperately need the passion and the revelations that Rumi had. Rumi has such an orientation, not just towards Shams, but towards everything. And that's the kind of attitude that we've got to have. We've got to have this unshakable love. This love for our world, this love for every person we meet, who, even if they're our outer shadow, they're bringing us a gift. This love for God, this love for the innermost heart of the universe that has a vision for us. Rumi writes of this love with utter adoration. He says, the sun is love, and the lover a speck circling the sun. A spring wind moves to dance any branch that isn't dead. The sun is love, and we, the lover, are like these specks circling the sun. A spring wind will move us to dance if our branches aren't dead. Any branch that isn't dead, that means any heart that's ready to move with the ecstasy of love is going to be moved now on this planet. Our hearts are going to be dancing, and we're not even going to be able to help it, even in the most painful moments. Rumi says, dance when you've been broken open. Dance if you've torn the bandage off. Dance in the middle of the fighting. Dance in your blood. Dance when you're perfectly free. Since we live where everything is music, everything is dancing. Watch the dust grains moving in the light near the window. Their dance is our dance. We rarely hear the inward music, but we're all dancing to it nevertheless, directed by the one who touches us, the pure joy of the sun, our music master. Do you feel that in your life, that you are being directed by a music master? Whatever teaches us, let's welcome it like the music master. It can be anything at all. Whatever it is that will awaken our love and command us, the way the planets are commanded by the sun to whirl unceasingly. The sun, our music master. Coleman Barks writes about the dervish's dance. The turn, the moving meditation done by the whirling dervishes, originated by Rumi. The story goes that he was walking in the goldsmithing section of Konya when he heard of a beautiful music and their hammering. And right there Rumi stopped, because he was so attuned to everything as music, that he began to twirl in an ecstatic dance of surrender to the hammering of those hammers, and yet with great centered discipline. He arrived at a place where all self-consciousness just dissolves, and a resonance with the universal soul comes in. So right there in the marketplace, he just started twirling and whirling. And people came around him and were wondering what he was doing, and then they started twirling with him. Can you imagine if we were in the co-op and somebody just started twirling and twirling, like you don't know what to do with that. And then finally people decided, let's just twirl with him. So Rumi's words read like advice to us dancers, advice to the lovers of the universe who long for this ecstatic communion everywhere we go, who long to be so close that anything in any moment could cause us to break into dance. Rumi says, keep walking, though there's no place to get to. Don't try to see through the distances. That's not for human beings. Move within, but don't move the way fear makes you move. Walk to the well. Turn as the earth and the moon are circling what they love. Whatever circles comes from the center. So the earth circles around the sun. The earth is solid on her own axis, and yet she spins and circles around the sun, held irresistibly in that orbit. That's how we revolve around whatever or whomever we love, with unreserved passion. So let's really rethink and really get in touch with what are we circling around, and what do we really want to circle around. I invite us to surrender much more deeply to that love. They tell us that the same love that we feel for a child or a wife or a husband or a friend in our peak moments, that we can feel that for anyone. That's what the Buddhists are talking about when they say metta love is the love of the Great Mother, and that's the kind of love that we want to have. And when we do, we'll want nothing more than to keep the strength of that connection, just as the mother who holds her child, or the lover who holds his beloved, wants only to circle around that soul forever. That's how we will be as humanity for the beloved, for the Creator. We'll just want to circle and circle our beloved forever. Andrew was telling us yesterday that, did you know that Rumi never wrote a word of his poetry down? How did we get it then? Legend has it that he just danced and danced all the time. And he would enter into these states of possession, of ecstatic union. And after twirling and twirling endlessly, he would stop, and then he would go and breathlessly lean up against one of the pillars in the temple. And breathlessly he would whisper to his followers these magnificent visions that he just had in the twirling. And then his followers would write it all down. And it's said that afterwards he didn't even recognize these words as his own. Have you ever had that experience of some great creativity coming through you, and then afterwards you look at it and you go, wow, did I write that? Wow, did I create that song? Could I really move like that? When ecstasy takes us over, we are like the whirling dervishes, and it literally creates a doorway. In fact, the word dervish means doorway. So Rumi was opening a doorway for us by his dancing, and he went into those realms, and he brought back the poetry that we get to read today. I got to actually watch the whirling dervishes in Turkey, and I can testify that just by being in the presence of those dancers, that a doorway opened up in my heart to feel this ecstatic joy and peace. Yet we don't have to go all the way to Turkey, because Rumi's telling us that the world of dance and singing and ecstasy is all around us, longing to be loved, filled with beings who long to be known and loved by us, by being centered in our own hearts as an axis, and by following our lives to revolve around each thing that cries out to be known and loved. We can follow that call to love every little scrap of the world and everyone in it. We too can dance through whatever. We can dance through our pain. We can dance through all the upheavals and uncertainties that this world is bringing us. And we can keep on walking, like Rumi said, one foot in front of the other, and then we can breathe and start turning. And we will move the structures of this world right through the difficulties, through that doorway, into the sunlight of the mind-blowing love of ecstatic union with the beloved of this universe. That is where we're going. Rumi said, don't mourn when the soul leaves, and when it all tumbles and falls around you, something even more precious is taking place. He whom nothing can contain is contained in the heart. He whom nothing can contain is contained in your heart. So dance, beloveds, dance. Let's dance right into the heart of God. Can you say amen or aho or something? So we're going to have our offering now, and then we are going to dance. We're going to do a Sufi dance called Ya Azim. So thank you for giving passionately in this offering. Unity needs your passionate gifts of this energy to be able to survive and do more things, to serve more people in our community. Such a need for people to know this kind of message, so we thank you for giving generously. Heather was reminding me that next Sunday, because it's a Jewish holiday, they need to use the space. On Sunday it just happens once or twice a year. So we're going to be at Hidden Springs. You know where that is? Does everybody know? Talk to somebody afterwards if you don't know. It's a beautiful place in the center of town. Beautiful round meeting room. So we'll be there next week, 10:30 next Sunday at Hidden Springs. hands together and say our prayer that we say for the offering. Divine love, through me, blesses and multiplies all that I am, all that I have, all that I give, and all that I receive. Thank you. So it is. Thank you.
So, first step, let me just tell you really quickly about this. I'm happy to share it with you, this Sufi song and dance. I just learned it myself. The music part of it is by Meetin, and it's called Ya Azim, and basically it means how beautifully God is revealed through you. So the first step is let's make a circle, one circle, and then I'll lead you into how the dance goes in the song. And if we need to scoot the front row chairs back still a little bit more, we can go ahead and do that, but just...
Come up here, all in this middle spot here.